The Front Row Brian Show is now beginning. He is the Rolex-wearing, diamond ring-wearing, kiss-stealing, wheeling-dealing, limousine-riding, jet-flying son of a gun. And he is having a hard time holding all these alligators down. Whoop.
Amen. Everything you say. I've been preaching that. I started preaching that. Of course. In 2003, I've been preaching and teaching people that we were once a great people. We have lost our way. We have amnesia of education.
Does that mean? Does that mean that we cannot gain our way again, sir?
No, we're going to find our way again. We're going to find our way again.
Well, this is what I'm saying, sir.
Obama is a deceiver that is trying to lead us away.
We're joined by Glory and Bellator star Joe Schilling, and I also have on the line Fraser Cofine of BloodyElbow.com. Formerly, some of you guys might remember HeadKickLegend.com and, of course, LiverKick.com, some great kickboxing resources. So how you doing, Fraser?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Good. And Joe, what's going on, man?
I'm doing great. I just finished my last day of sparring and feeling a little sharp, and it's gonna be a nice Saturday afternoon.
So Bellator 136, Friday night. It's in Irvine, California, at UC Irvine, and you're gonna fight Rafael Carvalho. What do you know about him? What can you tell us about him?
I watched some of his fights. He's a real well-rounded guy. He's got about 6'3", 6'4", big, strong kid. His record's 10-1 with 9 knockouts. He's got heavy hands for sure, and he's real patient. He knows how to win fights. Real well-rounded. He's got decent jiu-jitsu and good takedown defense. He's real well-rounded. It'd be a good test for me.
Sure. So everyone's aware of your striking acumen and all your credentials coming from Muay Thai. And also from Glory. So how do you balance the ground game training, the jiu-jitsu training with what you're doing first? Your stand-up.
I've been in kickboxing since I was 15 years old, and you can only do something for so long. Well, I don't know about everybody, but me personally, it became really hard for me to stay motivated and to stay in shape between fights, just because I've been doing kickboxing for so long. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I started doing jiu-jitsu in between fights just to stay in shape, and I really fell in love with it. And I feel pretty comfortable on the ground, to be honest. I've been working at it a long time. Obviously, I've picked it up a lot more with signing with Bellator and really making that transition into MMA. But it hasn't been very hard for me to balance it. I do jiu-jitsu and wrestling and stuff in the mornings or mid-afternoons, and I train my kickboxing at night. And, when I have a fight camp, it's a lot more based around my opponents and positional, strategic stuff. But it's been a lot of fun, to be honest with you.
So, Fraser, what do you got for Joe Schilling?
Well, Joe, I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're coming out of Glory 20 here, so middleweight tournament. What did you think about the middleweight tournament at Glory 20?
I thought it was good. I thought there were some exciting fights, and I thought the Simon Marcus and the Wayne Barrett fight was a really important fight for both of them. Both of those guys, I fought both of them in the past, and they both were coming off of 2 losses, so it was kind of a must-win fight for both of them. I didn't think it was that exciting. I thought they both looked like they were coming off of 2 losses and expected for more hesitant. They both saw the severity of how important that fight was, and I really didn't think that either one of them rose to the occasion like I was hoping. But I was glad that Simon won. I think that Simon is definitely a higher caliber fighter who deserves to be where he is. I wasn't that impressed with Wayne. I just think I don't really care for Wayne's style. I don't think it's that exciting for kickboxing without ragging on anybody. I mean, it was a good fight. But I thought Jason Willis was impressive. I thought the most impressive guy of the tournament for me was Jason Willis. I thought his fight with Pereira was a really good fight, and I think that had Simon had a rougher fight with Wayne, and it might have turned out differently, but it was an exciting fight. I was really happy to see my friend Robin Van Rooswalen defend his title, and I thought that Gabriel Varga did a fucking awesome job with his fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that you say, Barrett and Marcus were both coming in off of 2 losses. It's a very humble way of saying it, since one of those 2 losses for both of them was to you. Does it bother you at all that now Simon Marcus, who you beat, in June of last year, that now he's getting the shot at Artem Levin and you're not?
Not really. I don't think that it's going to go. I think I'll still get the shot at Artem Levin with the title after he fights Simon. I just don't think that Simon is going to be able to beat Artem under Glory rules. I think that it is what it is. I think that, it's my busy schedule and that stopped me from having that fight with Artem. I think that had I not been signed with Glory and had other fights and a busy schedule, I would be fighting Artem for the title. And really, it's exciting. It's an exciting matchup for the fans, and it's a fight that everybody wants to see, me and Artem. But I think that that's something that'll come. And really, I'm just more focused on putting on really exciting fights and staying busy. And the title's great, and I'd like to have it back. But I already have a Glory belt in my gym, and I'm not in really any hurry to get another one. I just want to stay busy and keep putting out exciting fights.
So, Joe, what's a relationship like between Bellator and Glory? I mean, obviously they're on the same television platform, but does it get a little bit complicated having to serve 2 bosses, so to speak, like checking with Coker or Rich Chow, hey, when do you have a fight for me, or then going to, I think Core runs the matchmaking for Glory. Is there some good synergy there, or sometimes competing interests?
I really wouldn't know. My manager Mike Kogan handles that kind of stuff, and I think he takes the brunt of all of that stuff. I have a great relationship with both promotions, and I'm a team player for both of them. So I really don't know. I'm sure they both would like to have me whenever they want, but unfortunately, there's definitely a conflict with schedule sometimes. But I'm fighting almost every other month right now, so I'm doing the best I can to make it work for both people. And the highlights that I create on Bellator, Glory gets to use, and the highlights I create on Glory, Bellator gets to use. So I think it's working out really well. I haven't heard any negative talk about it. I think both companies are happy to have me.
And Frazier, I mean, this is a question from you, for somebody who knows a lot more about kickboxing than me. But the crossover between Glory and Bellator, they really haven't found their star that does both, other than Joe. The first guy that comes to my mind, because I really don't watch Glory all that much, is Joe. So my question to you, is there any ways that they can possibly maybe cross promote a little bit better, or are there any other guys that you're aware of that could do both at a high level like Joe does?
Yeah, I mean, you've got there's between Glory and Bellator, right? I think Joe, yeah, your win over Manhoof in Bellator is kind of the one that really stands out there. You've got a path in the past with guys like Alistair Overeem going between K1 and the UFC, and Tyrone Spong, splitting his time. There's guys who have done it. Right now between the two, yeah, it seems like Joe. It seems like Joe, right? You're the one sort of paving the way. I'm interested to you, Joe. Do you know of other people who are looking at a similar kind of thing? Like guys that might be splitting their time a bit more between the two?
So you were asking if I knew of anybody else that was trying to make that same transition, and I knew of anyone?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Is this something that you hear of anybody else sort of thinking about the same path that you're laying out down here?
I know Tyrone Spong was kind of doing that with the World Series of Fighting, and
yep.
I'm not really sure. After his leg break, I think he's going into professional boxing, which is another avenue that I'm pretty interested in as well. The only guy that I know of that's doing it was Dustin Jacoby, and has been losing consistently in both sports. So I don't know anybody else that's doing it successfully right now at that level.
Yeah. Do you, since you mentioned boxing, you got a couple boxing fights. Is that something that you see yourself going back to at some point?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about it now that Premier Boxing Champions signed with Spike TV. It was something that Spike brought up to me one day, and kind of in passing, and would you ever be interested, man? I was like, absolutely. I jumped at the chance of that. So there's been a lot more talks going on about that, and I think that's a real possibility here in the next year or so.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, Spike's doing that whole, Friday night fights thing. It'd be interesting if they had you across, all three platforms that way. It's a unique opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's really phenomenal. In my career, I've always been with promotions that were very adamant about not allowing me to have other opportunities and not allowed to fight with other people, and it was very frustrating at times because you end up in a position where you only get a couple fights per year, and you're kind of stuck exclusively to one person. And Glory and Bellator have been, for the most part, very open to that. Was working with each other and allowing me to do that, which has been phenomenal. And to have a huge TV channel like Spike TV really supporting me the way they are and offering me an opportunity like that, it's a dream come true. So it's something I would be really interested in doing. I had an amateur boxing background when I was younger, and I've had some professional boxing fights. My pro debut in boxing, I fought a guy from Wild Card in Hollywood, and actually set the U.S. record for the fastest knockout. It was a 5-second knockout.
Wow.
And I fought a guy from Justin Fortune's gym, which is another respectful gym here in Los Angeles. And I'm 1-0-1. We got a draw. There was a cut that they claimed was from a headbutt or something. It was a punch, but that's the sport for you. But yeah, I have some professional boxing fights, and over the years I've had, what's made me so comfortable in the transition of going back and forth with MMA and kickboxing is, for a long time, being in California, there's always been a lot of high-level MMA fighters that I've used for sparring partners, and have used me for sparring partners for their fights. And I've learned a lot over the years working with those guys that I've been in there with really high-level guys, and it gives me a lot of confidence. And, throughout my whole career with MMA and with kickboxing, I've always done a lot of sparring with professional boxers. So it's I feel comfortable in all three. It's obviously something my training camps would change around those opportunities, but they're definitely an option and something I'd be really interested and excited about trying out.
So, yeah. Joe, to get on the Premier Boxing Champions card, what would you have to do? Would you have to sign with Al Heyman, or is that something have you explored that, or how do you get on one of those cards?
I really have no idea. It's something that Spike was talking that had expressed interest in. I would imagine that Spike and my manager would deal with that. My relationship with promoters is, hi, how are you? What would you like me to do? Absolutely, yes sir, no sir, kind of a thing. I don't really get into the managerial stuff, so I don't really know how the contracts would work and things like that. But I would imagine there would be something that Spike TV would kind of set up.
Yeah. And, you might get this a lot, Joe, but I mean, you really remind me, I don't know, maybe you guys are related in some way with Donald Cerrone. There's a lot of similarities. You both seem to have the same type of attitude about things. Have you gotten that? Do you know Cowboy?
I don't know Cowboy. Actually, it's funny you mentioned Cowboy. I have a lot of respect for Cowboy. I enjoy watching his fights, and I definitely appreciate the mindset that he has. I think that's the kind of mindset that all fighters should have, is to take those opportunities when they come. And that's how I met Nick and Nate Diaz. I was brought in as a sparring partner years back when Nate was going to fight Donald. They wanted a 6-foot kickboxer, and they brought me in, and I actually sparred with Nick and Nate that weekend, and that's how that relationship was formed, was me trying to mimic Donald Cerrone. So it's kind of interesting that you brought that up. But yeah, I worked my ass off my whole career trying to get opportunities and trying to make a name for myself, and I kind of went the hardest route. A lot of times there's a lot more opportunities that come a lot quicker in MMA, and I've really built my name off of kickboxing, which was a dead sport in this country for a long time. So having been through that and had to overcome and deal with the hardships of going that route. When opportunities come, I jump at the opportunity. You know, I take advantage of it. So when they offer me really lucrative stuff or great opportunities like boxing or switching to MMA or being a part of Bellator, is you know, that's something I'm going to take. So yeah, it's the only real similarity. I don't think we look that much alike or talk that much alike in parts of the country, but yeah, we both are down to fight and take opportunities and rise to challenges.
And, you know, Joe, he's obviously, you know, Cerrone's got that Muay Thai style that he brings in the UFC, but so it makes a lot of sense that, you know, you came in as, you know, to kind of copy that style and help prepare folks for that style. What, as somebody who's, you know, obviously has a lot of experience in, you know, more traditional full Muay Thai, what's your take on kind of the level of Muay Thai skill that we see in MMA as compared to, you know, kickboxing and you know, straight MMA or straight Muay Thai?
It's really hard to say. You know, it's easy to say that the level's not there and that, you know, I'm so much better striker than all of those guys, but it's really hard to. It's based off who you're fighting, you know, and the other options that are available. I think there's a lot of guys that could make a run in kickboxing. We wouldn't really know how good they are until you put them in a real full rules Muay Thai or a kickboxing glory type fight. You know, it's hard to look like a world-class kickboxer when you're fighting a wrestler, and you can't let your hands go, and you can't throw combinations, and you have to lower your stance, and, you know, it doesn't look nearly as pretty or high level, but there's obviously, you know, these are extremely high-level athletes that are trying to learn multiple scenarios and martial arts to compete in MMA. So it's, you know, I think if you look at a guy like Anderson Silva, for example, that's supposed to be like the best Muay Thai guy in MMA right now, I guess. I don't think that he would do. I don't think Anderson Silva would last 3 rounds with me in a kickboxing fight.
Sure.
Well, yeah,
that's real.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean?
That's a pretty strong statement, but I guess it lends to the credence that the kickboxers are specialists, and even in MMA, they're kind of doing the same thing as you, but they're not really.
Right, because in MMA, you can't, even me, when you watch me fight in an MMA fight, there's so many other things going on that my level of kickboxing doesn't show as well as it does in the kickboxing fight. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to be ready for the takedown. You have to be, you know, in a kickboxing fight, you can rip the high kick as hard as you want, and if you fall or you slip, then, you know, the referee stands between you and you stand up. But that doesn't happen in MMA, you know, and there's just a lot, you know, you can't really go for the clinch and as you would in a Muay Thai fight, you commit to it 100% because, you know, the underhooks and the takedown and, you know, all the other things that happen. So it's, you know, I don't want to bash MMA fighters because it's not a real fair representation because there's so many other aspects to the game. And I think that for the casual fan, it's difficult for them to maybe understand what I'm saying. But yes, it's kind of, I don't know. I think there's definitely much higher levels of kickboxing in kickboxing fights than there are in MMA.
Yeah, and I totally see where you're coming from. That, you know, I follow amateur wrestling pretty closely, and, you know, I got upset years ago when people were saying, "Oh, GSP can go to freestyle wrestling and win an Olympic gold medal." I was like, no, not that simple. You know, what the wrestling you're seeing in that octagon is not the same as Olympic wrestling or, you know, the world championships. And I think maybe that's the same thing. It's in an octagon, you're not seeing the type of kickboxing that you would see inside a glory ring.
Right. And I'm actually pretty good friends with GSP. We went out to dinner a couple of weeks ago when he was in town, and he was saying the same thing, that everybody thinks that he's this, you know, wrestling phenom, and he was telling me he gets his ass kicked by, you know, amateur wrestlers regularly, and it's a different sport, and there's different aspects. And we were talking about the difference in striking between kickboxing and MMA. That, you know, it's you can't rip off a 6-punch combination in MMA and not worry about getting taken down or losing. You know, if you miss a punch, you're out of position, and the guy, you know, takes advantage of it. So it's which is partially what's so much fun about, me making this transition into MMA and learning all these different aspects, because it really is. It's a completely different fight, and it's a different game, and there's so many different elements that you have to be aware of, and it's really been a lot of fun for me.
Yeah. Joe, how's the transition from the world of kickboxing to MMA compare to the transition you already made from the world of full Muay Thai over to kickboxing?
It's a lot. There's a lot more complicated to make the transition to MMA from kickboxing than it is from Muay Thai to kickboxing. I think that my style of Muay Thai, or the style that I've used for my kickboxing, I really don't see that much difference between Muay Thai and kickboxing. I know there's a lot of purists that hate it when you call Muay Thai kickboxing, but it's just silly. It's a English version of saying the same thing. And
you're going to get burned at the stake for that by some of the Muay Thai people.
What's that?
I said you're going to get burned at the stake for that from some of the Muay Thai hardcores out there.
I have two-time WBC world champion in Muay Thai, a two-time national champion in Muay Thai. Pretty sure I can say whatever I want about Muay Thai. I've won world titles in Thailand, and I've fought Roger Dunman Stadium and won my knockout, so I think I'm okay. But I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to rip off my achievements real quick. Oh, and I was a Glory World Champion. Anyway, but I think that what made me so successful in my full rules Muay Thai fights was my boxing ability and my hands. I think that traditionally, if you look at the sport of Muay Thai and the people they call it pure Muay Thai or traditional Muay Thai, the weakness is the hands. And I think that the reason behind that is in Thailand, the scoring system is so much more based around the kick than about the punches. And the guys that are punching are 120-something pounds. The average extreme high-level Muay Thai fighters are very small people. 135 pounds is like a heavyweight over there. And, so the style kind of transitions from Thailand, and then people, they try to copy it, but they don't make the adjustments with hands. And what's always helped me throughout when I was fighting Muay Thai was, I had good boxing footwork. I had a lot more movement. I had a different kind of style, and I used really heavy punches and mixed my game up really well. And making a transition into Glory, it was just, oh, you mean they can't hold on to me and clinch forever? Well, that's great. It was the only real difference is I had to stop throwing elbows, which was my best weapon with Muay Thai, and I focused a lot more on my boxing, which has paid dividends for me. So it was a very simple and easy transition for me from Muay Thai to Glory. From Glory to MMA, there's definitely a lot more groundwork and wrestling and habits to break and things to learn and work on. But again, like I said, it's been a lot of fun doing that. And also, I think the fact that I have been doing jiu-jitsu for so long for fun and enjoying it before I decided to make the jump into MMA, I think has helped out a lot.
Cool.
Yeah, Joe, and I know I promised you I wasn't going to mention the Diaz brothers, because I know you're your own guy and you've accomplished a lot of things, before you probably even met them. But one guy that's really, because it helps to have famous friends, and one guy that's really given you a lot of publicity of late is Joe Rogan, and because that podcast of his, man, is a juggernaut. And so how did you get to know Joe? He's a huge kickboxing fan. I assume that's how. He was at one of my Glory fights, and it's funny. I remember when I was training, this sounds like such a super fan thing, but it's true. When I was training for my fight with Cal Fly, there's a park in Chinatown that I was running at. It's just a big dirt track, and I put my headphones on and I'll go for 5 mile run or whatever. And I remember a couple of times during that fight camp, I forgot my podcast. I forgot my headphones. And I swear for at least 2 or 3 days for my 5 mile run of that fight camp, I just imagined Joe Rogan calling my fight against Calfly, in my head as I was running. And, I've always been a big fan of
MMA and watched it. And Joe Rogan is considered like a god among like MMA fans. And I never really listened to his podcast that much. And I think Glory had hit me up before when I fight with Robert Thomas and said, "Would you like to be on the Joe Rogan podcast?" And I was, absolutely. So they got me on the show, and I met Joe maybe 3 or 4 minutes before the podcast started, and I found out that he was a big fan of mine and knew a lot about my career and knew an awful lot about kickboxing, and I had no idea that he was such a big fan. And we did the podcast, and we text every now and again. He helps me out, gives me tickets to the UFC fights. I think he's going to go to my fight this upcoming weekend, so we've kind of become friends. And Joe's a great dude. We definitely kind of clicked right away, and we relate to each other pretty well.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good friend to have. And just to remind everybody, next Friday, April 10th, Irvine, California, on campus at UC Irvine, Joe Schilling is fighting Rafael Corvallo. And the main event is Will Brooks. Help me out, Frazier. Who's he fighting?
Dave Jansen, correct?
Oh, the fugitive from Oregon. Yeah, I actually know who that is. Okay. So Bellator 136, April 10th in Irvine, of course, 9 o'clock in the East. And has Spike fixed the thing where they won't show it they don't show it live in the West? Or are they still doing that?
I think you're still tape delayed on the West, I believe.
Yeah, they got to fix that. So I guess for everybody, it's 9 o'clock no matter, if you're in New York City or if you're in LA. But Joe, really appreciate the time. Look forward to seeing you fight next week, and then in the future, and whether it be Bellator, Glory, or with Al Heyman's boxing promotion.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Appreciate
Thanks so much, Joe.
Hey, take care of it.
Yeah,